Hey, it's Shabes, welcome to another edition of AniTube Digest. We're going with the best and not so best anime YouTube videos to come out this month, half of the month of April 2023. I'd like to start with, of all people, Eeg Studio, who put out two AMVs this month so far, kind of in rapid succession of each other, kind of in a way of promoting her music, I think, because they're both kind of singles off of that she's put out recently, or I'm not too familiar with her music or have followed it all that closely, so I don't know if these are relatively new tracks or not. I think they are. It's the first I had heard of them, really. But I like both of them a lot. And I'm really just highlighting one, The Great Pumpkin, that was the more recent one. But I also watched Renegade, which is a Fujiko AMV. I do notice that the similarities with the two, kind of the branding is similar on the thumbnails, and then it's focusing on a particular, it's centered on one character, like one female protagonist in both of them. And I think the vibes are pretty immaculate. They kind of work with each of these. But like the AMVs are relatively simple, which is something that I think he actually talked about. Trixie's talked about in a live stream recently when it comes to making AMVs and stuff. So she's more in the very basic, simple kind of clips and stuff, and not much synchronization or. I said I feel like that at least in the Jolene one there was a couple of similar, like, kind of repetitive clips almost, so there's sort of a narrowed focus on certain shots and not so much like giving this whole big variety or narrative or anything. I think it's just setting visuals to music in that way, which is the kind of more utilitarian method, I think, of delivering these singles onto the channel, which I think is a cool idea. Just wanted to bring that up because I think that's interesting, and enjoyed both of them for sure. I don't know, it's something with my voice or something. It's something kind of lower, or it sounds weird, or I don't know. Feels weird talking right now. I don't know why. I didn't really look into Raymona's full second part about finding this U.S. pilot for Saint Seiya or Guardians of the Cosmos, but she did pull up the full episode, which I'm surprised it was an entire episode, and it was something that she didn't cover at all in the first video, and I think it's because it had all this other. She was looking into the, details of this other thing, and when she got the stuff from Library of Congress, this just happened to be in there, and literally nobody knew that it was a thing. So I'm sure that the full video is sort of the figuring that out, but I wasn't all that interested in this time. I'm kind of okay with just looking at the pilot at this point. Which the pilot itself, obviously full credit to her finding it and posting it, much appreciated. The pilot itself is interesting. The designs it's unmistakably Saint Seiya in terms of its design sensibilities, and the move attacks are mostly the same. He does have, it's not Ryuseiken, but it's sort of, he just goes like Meteor Fist, I think, and then what was Diamond Dust is Hyuga's attack. He just goes Diamond Dust in like the He-Man-y kind of format. This is very much of the kind of He-Man Masters of the Universe type of style, or Double Dragon or Street Fighter in that kind of era. It was very Xeroxy, not too expensive type of animation, and very simplistic in its action and stuff like that. But for their credit, it does kind of take a couple of things where it's like, oh, there's the I forget a lot of their names, unfortunately. I know Iki and Seiya and Hyuga, Shun, and I don't even remember the dragon guy's name. But obviously they changed them all, and they have like US names, like localized, like Jason and Nick or whatever. Of course. But they are the settings that they're initially training at are familiar, but it did make me reflect on the effectiveness, at least of the anime. I don't know if the manga necessarily does the same thing for Saint Seiya, but I did appreciate that for a bulk of it. At least I feel like I remember this was kind of in media res almost. Like it really starts you and they already have all the armor and everything. It was interesting. They don't really gamify the armor, right? The cloths, because they're like bronze cloths and they're a certain power level, but then the golden ones are more powerful. They don't really make the correlation between the armors. uh, Athena's just like, I have this armor that you can use, and they already like can use their powers and stuff like. And it's been a long time since I've seen Saint Seiya, but I don't recall if they were able to really use their powers that effectively without the armor. And it was weird with this pilot. They just inexplicably didn't have the armor at one point. It just went missing or something. And then when they're getting to fighting this first Gold Saint, the Ox guy, which I believe is the first one they fight in the Sanctuary arc, at least in that arc itself, not like beforehand. Um, it was weird. Like they're obviously eating shit, and then they decide to work together, and the armor just kind of magically comes to them. All right, kind of weird. I don't know, pointing fun in this sort of thing. The acting is funny and interesting. I don't know, it is kind of interesting and surreal watching this, especially if I have vague memories of Saint Seiya. I don't know if how many times I've repeated that. I apologize. No, but it was fun. I was also noticing that I don't think Shun and Ikki are brothers in this. They seem to be coming from different places, and Shun comes from like an Amazon type looking place. I don't quite remember if that was the case with the original. And then Ikki is like from America, and it has like it's kind of from like the slums of New York or something. It's like, oh, okay, yeah. But he's not evil at first. I don't know. There's a lot of things about this that was like, man, I really appreciate what the original does. That just kind of makes it interesting. And I guess they can't make it too complicated, or I don't know why they wouldn't just make them brothers or have one of them be evil. There's certain things that makes the story a little more interesting than this. And it is very much like the Seiya show, and then his friends, and they're just kind of all there, like as a group, and they don't have as much like interplay and dynamics and own things going on. Like Hyuga, I don't think that they're all not all named again. Again, they're all different names, but like Hyuga's character doesn't have the revenge thing going on. It seems, at least demonstrated in this pilot. The whole thing with I forget his name. It's the dragon guy. I forget. Sorry. Again, kudos to Ramona for uncovering it. I'm sure she finds interviews with some of the people who's involved, because it does have the full credits at the end attached to it. But yeah, I'm good. Yeah. CBF decided to talk about Rin, Daughters of Nimines. It's kind of it's a wacky title, and I understand not really putting it in the title or thumb for sure. Although I feel like the title, I don't quite know what it means. You know what I mean? I don't quite follow it, I guess. I was interested because I know you're talking about this show, so that's why I wanted to watch it. But I don't know how effective it is as a title thumbnail combo necessarily, which could be a contributing factor to its success at the moment. That's okay. But the video itself, I was more interested when you were talking about it through the lens of its setting, because I had no idea that it jumps time that much and visibly demonstrates the use of technology. I think that focus was a unique aspect that made me really interested in it. And then the moment you start talking about, not like because it's problematic or so, because of like the whole bondage and other torturous sexual type of stuff that's in this anime, which like I've been aware of, and not like it's a turn off to say, oh, I won't watch it and that kind of thing. But it's, the thing I kind of know it for, pretty much. It's the kind of thing I always hear about. And I don't know, once it got to that point, it ended up feeling a little more reviewy. And I guess it's supposed to be a review, but I don't know, just the angle you were taking in at first was keeping my attention for more of it and was getting me interested. And obviously, it's important to bring those aspects of the show up, and I don't know, being aware of I didn't even talk about the characters and other things like that. It's like, yeah, I guess you didn't. And it's not like you had to. It's not like any video. It's like there's a certain criteria you have to follow or something, unless you explicitly stated at the beginning that this is what you're going to do, and then you don't deliver on it. Then that'd be a different story. But like I don't necessarily need you to talk about the character, et cetera, or be well-rounded, unless you were going for that, like, here's my review of this show, in which case then yeah. But again, I don't necessarily think you needed it to be a review of sorts. I'm perfectly fine with you kind of talking about it from this angle or this direction, and being informing in a way that I just don't think a regular review would have pointed this sort of time stuff and technology out. It would have focused on what you were talking about, the story, the characters, the animation, and it's, I don't necessarily know if we need that. I mean, the video I'm literally about to talk about, some other ones as well. I think it's sort of like the restructuring a review for me that I like with this next video I was going to mention about Dougram, is that it's addressing it from the perspective of having experienced the show, and kind of addressing the common qualms with it and your perspective on those things. Talking about the broader context and like why this was made, who it was made by, and getting the understanding of this series without necessarily deeming about its, giving a judgment, giving a judgment call on its quality. I don't think, not necessarily need that, because that's subjective for everyone, and you can obviously talk, it's like, I didn't like it or whatever, and it helps that you like it or whatever, because then that clarity can you better audience expectations. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of hard for me to gauge exactly what the angle was or why you were making it, type of thing, of like what's kind of the thesis or mission statement here. And it seemed like you really targeted on this one idea about the technology and the time span and stuff. And so I was on board for that. I'm like, this is pretty good. And yeah, I just, the latter half or third of it or something, it's sort of just like, yeah, that too. It's like, okay. Yeah, at least it's just my perspective, I guess. But yeah, I'm happy you talked about it, because I feel like a lot of these shows, right, they have very little representation to them. So it's sort of in a way to inform people of this stuff and make better, not to make better decisions or anything like that, not like that so much. I don't know, I just, these things need a better, they need more better representation than just a synopsis on Mal and the cover image, because I feel like that, it feels like that is always what gets encapsulated or boiled down to with these anime, and not as many people go out and physically explore them and then show that material and talk about it. That's one of the best things about videos, I think, that makes them so useful. But yeah, I'm happy you did it for this show, for sure. Sheesh, my back is killing me. Ooh. Pyramid Inu, I think this is the first time I'm talking about their channel. The best Gundam series that isn't actually a Gundam series. It's doing pretty well. I think it's their most popular video on their channel now. For Dougram of all things, it's like, that's really encouraging. I mean, it's a good title and thumb for sure. And being an hour long, you kind of expected to have a lot of substance and everything like that, and it does. It wasn't a gotcha or anything. It certainly, I think it doesn't feel like an hour. I think he just has a really good cadence and a flow with the things that he's talking about, and it doesn't move on. He doesn't move on too quick. I don't know what I was trying to say. It's like it's a steady clop, and he's constantly talking about different things, I guess, and it doesn't feel repetitive or anything. Yeah, but what was really encouraging for me about this vid was just the acknowledgement of the series from the perspective of a viewer, of like, he's talking about like, this is very dry, this is very ugly, this is, and being matter of fact about that, but then kind of complimenting it why it it works in his perspective. Well, and I like that because, this is coming from someone who recently finished Doogram, with not the most positive reception of it. I didn't think it was bad, but I did have a lot of the qualms that actually brings up here, which was just validating to hear, even though we don't share the same opinion. It's like, yeah, it does do that. Yeah, it does kind of put these characters aside and puts this the first, and is actually kind of putting it into words of like why I might not have enjoyed it, despite this being a kind of a positive thing and a positive video of sorts. I also had no idea about the manga the new manga that's been being released by the same author as Gundam Thunderbolt. I had no idea that was a thing. That's fantastic. And maybe it gets an anime or something. But I was happy, actually talked about that. Even talked about the movie and its shortcomings and kind of didn't really succeed in what it was trying to do. And I think my favorite part of the video was this tangent that he went on about these different live action movies and talked about this one with like Marlon Brando. And he gave like a time code of like, oh, skip this if you want to just hear about anime. And I'm like, not really, actually. I really want to hear about this other movie because it's just a fresh. It's unexpected. It's something I haven't heard of, and I've trusted you far enough into the video, like at 40 something minutes into the video, you put it in there. So it's like I kind of want to know what you mean, and I thought that was a really great perspective and just broadens the horizons and the scope and everything. Because when people click on like a Naruto video and everything, and you give them something else, it's yeah. Not that they completely something out, but like just for a few minutes, just to make your point or whatever, it just makes it feel very well rounded. I guess at least that would be my hope. It's probably not because my retention's garbage. I think I actually haven't looked, but. Yeah, but I just really liked the video. Yeah, and I would totally watch more if he was going to talk about other series that are not very well discussed. It's like, he's made several Gundam videos already, and it's like, yeah, we've heard like plenty of Gundam and stuff. And to be fair, there are still videos out there that like, oh, you've talked about this a lot, and what more could you add, sort of deal. And I understand the apprehension of that. But I don't know. This is what I'm talking about, where it's like, giving a representation for Doogram, because it deserves it, and it deserves to be remembered. And I like the sentiment at the end where he's like, I'm hoping it doesn't end up like the initial image or the kind of the final picture with Doogram is this like really decaying, rotting mecha that's kind of abandoned. He's hoping that the series itself doesn't kind of fall into that. Yeah, it's just a good sentiment and a good video overall. Yeah, I'm happy it's doing well. So Joey's been super busy on his second channel, just cranking stuff out, which is great. He's also done some stuff on his main channel, but it's like the anime stuff on his main channel. I don't know. I just don't get good vibes from it, to be honest with you. I don't know. I do really like the more down to earth, talking to camera and just whatever. But this project caught my eye with writing a whole album in a single day with Kevin Penkin, and I did listen to the full album. I was just looking for my phone, and I'm like, it's up. God damn it. I did listen to the whole album that's on Spotify as I was doing some work for something else, and very spacey, very hypnotic, very long tracks. Like I think every track was over 10 minutes. I didn't necessarily look at the run. I know one of them was like 17 minutes or something. It's very spacey, repetitive, hypnotic. Repetitive seems like a negative connotation. There's certainly some tracks where there were spans of like some passages that were really getting on my nerves, or just or whatever. But I really wanted to stick through it. It's kind of a meditative type of thing, and sometimes you get sick of it, and it get the loops get to you, sort of thing. But that's kind of part of the process, I'd assume. But the actual craft of the video itself, Joey just puts a camera in one spot, or he has two cameras actually, one where Kevin's at, kind of overhead, and then one where where the angle is right here for the thumbnail. And it just seems like they're kind of it's kind of a live session, kind of live jamming. And yeah, it's about an hour of material. They kind of just played with each other, and there's like 1, 2, 3, and then to stop a certain part or to continue something. I thought that was interesting, and they kind of mostly heavily using synths, which is something Kevin mentioned as like, I figure since we bonded over synths so much, we may as well make this collaboration using them, and seems like relatively straightforward thing to use too, like just kind of pick up and play, and it shouldn't be too. It makes it helps it to be this one day album in a day idea to be a little more feasible, and then it did take a little longer to like mix and master, because I'm sure Kevin and Joey as Ikaru don't necessarily want a project that feels like half done or rushed or whatever, so they do kind of spend a little more time mixing and mastering it, making it like nice. But for the most part, everything was played in that one session that's filmed here. And I played the video in 1.5 times, so a lot of the music that was sampled in the video itself, I couldn't get the full understanding of what it was until I would listen to the album in full after the fact. I don't know. I felt like that was something that I enjoyed about my experience with this project. That I was mostly unspoiled to what it sounded like for the most part, while getting that experience. And they're mostly not talking. There's not a lot of like, here's the things we played, here's the names of this track, and there's not too much information in that way. It really is just sort of an experiential, visibly watching them do it, and there's very little guiding or anything. But I feel like that's a lot of these kind of music things. I recently saw at JPEG Mafia posted a video of his process of making Scaring the Hose with Danny Brown, and it's very like out of context clips. You kind of just turn the recorder on and they're just working, and you're not interrupting them, they're not explaining anything, they're not talking to the camera, they're just kind of like in the zone in their process. You're just kind of fly on the wall almost. So I think that was an appropriate choice to go with visual. It's just economic, so that you don't have to make a whole theatrical deal out of it, and then Joey gives context at the beginning and end, sort of thing. But I don't know. It's kind of cool project, and a good way to experience or promote an idea, a project and stuff. Oh, it's cool. I really like it. I needed a break, so I maxed out my bad anime. I appreciated Tyler's little shout out or dig at Mike, because Mike gives a little dig to K-On! At one point. He's like, "Oh shit, like K-On! Or whatever." And then Tyler's like, "Don't listen to Mike. K-On's good. I want to see K-On! Stands in the comments or whatever." Kind of the collaborative nature. But I wanted to mention that at the start before I forget it. I know I didn't necessarily watch the Cyberpunk video, which is probably their more the stuff they put in. Mike put a lot of thought into, and obviously, but Mike's been getting a ton of more. I don't know if political is really the word for it, but it kind of is, I guess. But very aware of his whirl, and almost let it. It sounds like it's getting to him, and I worry, and I'm hoping they're doing okay. But yeah, I guess the dystopianness with Cyberpunk really did some damage, and I'd probably check it out. But I guess I was more interested in. I had checked out his Dan Matchy video a couple weeks ago, and then I'm now checking out Maxed Out My Defense is Beaufry, just because it's just not something that I'd expect him to make, really. Yeah, you're just sort of like, what's the impetus for this? And I really like that this video is mostly centered on, Mike's head and his mental space, where he's like, I just need something I could turn my brain off, and I don't have to think. It doesn't have to make me analyze or whatever. And I know that Trixie's made that a long time ago at this point. I don't know if the general gist, I think, was that Trixie was kind of dismissing this idea of turning your brain off. But I think from Mike's perspective, it makes sense because it's physically what he's doing. Because it's sort of like, I just want to turn on Hulu, and it's like, I don't care if this is good or not, just do it. Just and he's like, oh, the characters are cute, the world is appealing, I want to go there. It doesn't make any sense. The game is broken, and that's kind of funny, And it's just sort of a it feels like that elite, like, not that Mike's an elitist, not saying that. I just when you're so in the thick of it, when you get into anime so much to the point where you're making videos and stuff like that, and you're watching a ton, you're really diving in, right? We're all in that big bulk here, and we get super critical of this stuff. And I've explained this bell probably 8 times or something. I'm sorry, so I'll stop. Where it feels like Mike was kind of coming from the other end, where it's like, it's just good. It's like, he doesn't necessarily have to, like, oh, it's bad pod and like picking it apart or anything. And I feel like a previous part of myself, and maybe in a slightly other context, would kind of demean. I don't know if demean's the word. Would kind of put down a title like this of kind of like just blatantly calling it bad or brain dead or something like that. But I think Mike makes his perspective very clear of like, it's nothing against. I don't have a. He doesn't have an axe to grind against the show or anything. It's simply his like deflation period, or it's something just like, It's if it kind of, I don't know, just feels that way, and I like that he's just kind of like, I don't know, letting us into his mental space, somewhat, and it's not just sort of it's not just putting on his thinking cap or like presenting himself in a more elevated YouTubery kind of stance. You know what I mean? It just feels more authentic. Not that the other stuff wasn't authentic, I guess. It just it feels like it's coming right from the id, right? I don't know if that's the right part of the brain, I should say. Just like really forced and guttural, and I don't know. It's just interesting to see that with this kind of idea, and with Bofuri specifically, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to comment on it because I think the approach of how personal this video felt was really cool. Suin just recently put out of nowhere Fullmetal Alchemist 2003 is a masterpiece, making the claim that it's better than Brotherhood, and it just made me think how this will never ever stop. It really, and I feel like I pegged it when I first watched Brotherhood, like almost 10 years ago at this point, where Brotherhood and original, I watched original first and then I watched Brotherhood, where it's like I really can't choose between the two, and so it's this endless debate. Brotherhood's sort of the poster child and the fan favorite and kind of what the fans wanted and stuff, but O3 is, from what Suin's talking about, far more interesting and flawed and bold, interesting, dark, and kind of the cool one. To me, I think Suin was able to kind of put it properly into words. And I always thought about the homunculus, for example, their origin of being failed transmutation experiments was way more interesting than their other origin in Brotherhood, I thought. And soon he leans in, goes into that and brings some more detail and everything. And I like that it was in one video. Look at this. It's no mess. It's no dig on Lower, but like, it's a lot. It's a lot of content to ask for when and I'm happy that Lower ultimately went it with like really explaining all of it and being nitty gritty with the 2 details and stuff. I think that Suin was able to be very clear-headed with sort of almost hand waves, like, yeah, it's some messy parts, and it's like, yeah, it doesn't make the choices that are the maximum entertaining, or the most satisfying narratively or something. But they kind of work in that way to its advantage almost, and I don't know, it just felt very succinct for just for being 20 minutes. I feel like 20-minute video was just like No, 20. I guess I don't know. I guess an hour is worse. But yeah, I just felt it just felt so like well made, and of course with Suen. I like that there wasn't too many in the way of flashiness or the certain effects and stuff that she was using here. It was far more utilitarian. It's okay. The whole video was in 4:3, which I appreciated, of course. Of course. Despite with Brotherhood being in widescreen, she kind of just, dude, whatever, you know. And the stylistic differences in Brotherhood and O3 were interesting as well. I didn't fully realize that O3 was a lot narrower and dark, the kind of like more serious looking than the more appealing, rounded mass appeal almost of Brotherhood's designs. I'm like, oh my god, yeah, there is something there. Holy crap. I don't know how I didn't notice that. I feel like they were just so similar. But there does seem to be a good difference. Yeah, I don't know. I just thought this was a really good argument for O3, and despite all the things that like people say about Brotherhood and everything, this is sort of kind of definitive for me, I think. But like I said, this is never going to end. There'll be another person kind of like arguing the other direction and stuff. And that's what makes it so they're so intertwined and like advantages of one and the other, and there's no way to reconcile it. I think it's sort of unfortunate. It's sort of unfortunate, honestly. I'm sure there's plenty of other examples, right, with like 99 and 2011 of Hunter x Hunter, but I mean, at the very least, at least they don't have such massive story changes. You know what I mean? For a manga adaptation, the fact that FMA 03 and Brotherhood feel so different, and neither of them are a real adaptation of the manga necessarily. Like, they are, don't get me wrong, but like they're both incomplete in their own ways. So it's like, man, damn it. Yeah, I don't know. It's very interesting. Despite how tired and exhausted this discussion is, I think I'm happy to see it from Suen for sure. Weeb Crew making me want to watch Shonen Bakusozoku. Yeah. Again, more than I already was. I'm gonna download it and I'll watch it over the summer, I think. But yeah, man, God, it looks great. And I had no idea they used I commented this on the video, but like I didn't realize that Kyokara Oriwa got a Blu-ray as well, and that it looks so good. I probably want to rewatch that as well, especially because they're both delinquent shows. You know, I think that'd be a good idea. Yeah, it's a conversation between the two of them, sort of a abbreviated, edited kind of podcast type of format. I do like the back and forth and the lack of a real structure. Like, they do kind of talk about there's the manga and there's the this and here's the production history that was directed by this guy. And I feel like that's fine, but I think it was fresh. I feel like that stuff was fresh because of how they presented it as a conversation with the two of them and in like this podcasty format, but it never felt slow, and it didn't feel slow in that way either, because of how it was edited, I guess. Yeah, I just like the format a lot. I know I haven't really been keeping up with every upload of theirs, so it's probably just like a similar style for them. I like their BG a lot, the kind of thing they use for representing them. Yeah, I'm just kind of watching it. I'm just like, I really gotta watch this. So, yeah, and that was unfortunately all I was thinking about. So I don't have too much further to say besides that, unfortunately. But yeah, I really enjoyed this video. It was really necessary. I'm very happy that you guys did it. Because again, it's that thing where it's like we want to get, what's the deal with this one? What's its situation and stuff like that. But yeah, in a appealing, entertaining format. Yeah, I liked it a lot. Gaijin Guy with a big video about the evolution of Leiji Matsumoto. It's a tribute, and it's not the most thorough. I think not that I'm like a Leiji buff or anything. He's certainly more of a Leiji buff than me. I thought what was more interesting about this video than him going through his career or whatever was his personal relationship with his works. And a lot of it was sort of a life story for Gaijin Guy talking about kind of how he first got into manga and anime, and choosing to move to Japan, and how he related to 3-9 when it came to him moving to Japan, and people were like, "You'll never be one of us," type of thing, and overcoming that adversity with Matsumoto's works, and talking very meanderingly about his style and certain things he would do, and tropes and stuff. But I like that it didn't feel like it overindulged in the same typical talking points with Leiji. I just feel like a lot of people either kind of get obsessed over his Leiji-verse concept, or maybe get really deep into his involvement with Yamato and the legal battle there, or even just like he has a stint with shoujo. I don't think Gaijin Guy necessarily mentioned that, but he did mention not a one shot, but it was like a really short manga he did, where like it was set in a world where comics were so illegal that if anybody picked up a pen, or if it was detected that somebody had picked up a pen somewhere on the planet, they blew the whole planet up. Something insane like that. And he's like, I want to be a manga artist, and it's about my cat, and talking about it more in depth, and how much he related to as an artist and stuff like that, or the hard work with the calluses and stuff. I don't know, there was just such a personal touch to that I just really appreciated a lot. It just feels like a fresher take. And I'm gonna spew again. I'm gonna spoil it. I'm gonna tease an idea. I have been in the mind of creating my own, of putting a Leiji video out, because I have a particular stance and take that I kind of want to look into. But I have to watch a couple of stuff and rewatch some stuff. But I have a general vibe and idea of what I want to do with that. But that'll be later. And it culminates. This video culminates with like his story about getting to have some interview questions with Leiji, and then meeting Leiji in person. And he did manage to get the footage from the TV interview that he did with Leiji, some clips of that, and he tried to ask him questions that like very few people would have asked. And I always that's an approach that I would have too, where it's like, if I'm going to meet someone important or famous, I really want to let them know that I'm unique, or give them something they wouldn't expect, or I'm not just like a surface level fan. No offense to those other fans, and their support is valuable too. I just that personally excites me when it's sort of like I'm giving them a curveball or something kind of different, or something they might personally appreciate. And then he has that shot at the end with him shaking his hands and everything, and it's just like a really great moment. It's just like a really like great memory, and he's like, and I got this signature from him with art tribute drawing with Maytel, and it's like, damn, that's so cool. And it's just really wholesome. But kind of going through it, and it feels like a lot of it was in one take almost, and he kind of presents it in a panel-like style, with different slides and stuff. He's like, I'm going to show you the presentation I did previously and stuff like that. But I don't know. I feel like I've said this about his channel before, but his content feels like you're in the room with him, and he's just kind of showing you this stuff, and you're letting him talk, and it's just like that. And he always has a very fresh perspective, which I really appreciate. It doesn't feel rote from somebody who's from that old guard, back when like we had this. There's a period where we were watching the Space Battleship Yamato movies without subtitles, and the summaries were our Bible type of thing, and he's like learning about what these are about and everything. Crazy. But I like his perspective a lot. I really like his style and presentation. Wholesome stuff. It's a good video. Like it a lot. Finally, Roger Smith 2004. Oh my gosh. Have I talked about him on Digest? Yeah, I talked about his Psychic Wars and probably his anime cover art, I think. Yeah, I think so. But it has been 2 years. Probably a little more than that, obviously, because that's just what YouTube says. Out of nowhere, fantastic, and it helps that it's so inspired. It really it just I clicked off a lot of videos this morning. I really did. It was either the mic or this wasn't hooking, wasn't doing it. But Roger just you can tell he's been around for a long time, and he's informed, and has made videos for a while, is experienced, and so his actual intros and how extremely approachable and down to earth this sort of thing. It's just such a throwback to when he was making videos in that period, and when I started, and he was before me. But in that period where all of us were just kind of talking about it, and it's not so much of a feeling of like, YouTube, notice me, or something like that. It's just sort of like, hey, I got a cool idea for you, and I've prepared a couple examples and stuff. And it's a huge clickbaity type of title. I thought it was going to be all about Kofuku, but it's a variety of titles that I wouldn't have possibly recognized. I think I've seen all of them, not all of them. It was Monster, Manabi Straight, Kofuku Graffiti, Naruto. Yeah. And then some other, one of the things, yeah. So actually the main points, I think I've seen all of the shows he's talking about, interestingly enough. But one of the things that really I notice as someone who's watched a lot of videos, makes my own videos, and can appreciate these sorts of these details, is that Roger's pulling from a lot. He is like, every single clip is just some random new title. It's a different shot or whatever. They're very specific and nuanced choices. It's not just like the OP or something. It's not just this, like, I don't know what to put here. Every clip feels very thoughtful, and it's from a particular shot or scene or something. I really respect and appreciate that. I feel like that goes by over a lot of heads, but like, that's so important because it just shows he's just talking about this food idea generally, but he's showing that he thinks about this a lot, and showing a lot of thought and care in the video itself. But then just like the small, like, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you, and like using that particular clip of Monster as kind of acting in that way, and just the small subtle touches and stuff like that. He's really good. And I liked it. Reminded me with Matthew Matosis, with just kind of casually moving on to a different thing. Hazel does this as well, but I feel like Hazel just kind of makes it all about the media and not just this scene or whatever. Roger's talking, when he brings up Naruto, when he brings up Kofuku, he's only going to give you so much context that's needed to explain the thing that what he's trying to focus on, which is the food aspect. But I guess with Hazel, maybe I'm just generalizing, and it's been a while since I've watched one in that style from her, where like it feels like she has to explain the entire ethos, or like here's the whole deal about this show type of thing, and then talk about it in whatever context she was going to talk about it in. I like that, Roger, because we're talking about this idea with isolation, or like me being a very vulnerable private activity, or something that's shared or whatever, in the different manners in which it's used and stuff. The connectiveness with other YouTubers, talking about one of Joe's videos that's been removed or taken down or whatever. The connectiveness with the rest of the community and stuff. I don't know. And his personal experience going to Anime Expo. There's just like so much variety to this. And it's funny, I appreciated that, like, I'm currently struggling with something with my own video that'll probably come out soon enough. I'm just kind of shopping it around to different people and being like, what do you think of this? Where there's certain chunks where I'm like, should I put this in here, or for the or abbreviate this, or remove it, or move it somewhere else? And I like the boldness to just be like, yeah, this is the end of the video, and then very transparently, like, I can see that there's 2 minutes left. I can see the timeline when I watch the video. So I know there's more to it. It's a very substantial chunk. And then he's like, here's some addendums of stuff I really couldn't fit in the video, but I'm fitting in the video anyway because here they are. It's kind of just, yeah, sure, why not? If you want to watch, if you want to look into more, yeah, I have more, or more points basically. But the tightness of the video, like before the conclusion, all that is fantastic. But I just like admire that he's willing to put that stuff in there. I would just sort of think just like as the piece, as the thing, as like, if it's, it's either going to be where it is or it's going to be cut or something, So it's me thinking, because I have to think about killing my darlings a lot of the time, because you have these ideas and you have these concepts and stuff, and it's hard to, because with so much free reign, it's your video and there's no time limit or whatever, there's no constraints. It's so easy to indulge in this sort of stuff. So for me, I'm like, I worry about it, and so I'm like, I have to dial it back and back. But I appreciate it. I don't know. I think I've repeated myself enough. I like that he put an addendum there that's long enough and very transparent, but it still gives like, here's the edit of this, and here's some other stuff I didn't put in the video, even though you did. Yeah, I just like the approach a lot. I'm just happy to see him with a video. I don't know if he's got other stuff in mind. I'm hoping it does. I hope he's in a better spot emotionally and physically at the moment, with stuff. And it's, I'll also say that I know this is a public video and stuff, but I apologize that we haven't spoken that much in a while. And but I appreciate you coming on streams occasionally, and I get to talk about your videos and stuff. It's just great to see you in this format. Yeah, I just like the video a lot, seriously. Okay, that'll do it for this installment of AniTube Digest. Thank you very much for watching. You guys are great. You have a great rest of the month, half of the month. Yo, peace.